Love this podcast? Support us by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Hit the link in the episode description to support us now. Thanks for listening and enjoy. Nicole.
Hey, Rolando.
What's going on? I have a question for you.
I have an answer, I hope.
What movie do you think best encapsulates what high school is like?
I'm going to go with Heathers.
Really? Heathers?
I know, the most artistic, outlandish film I'm going to go with. That's just like, turns everything up to 11.
Yeah. I forgot.
Actually,
that's
it's
how
either
all high schools are.
Yeah, right. It is either Heathers or like the most boring, mundane, not exciting high school movie that it's not coming to my head. What about you?
Breakfast Club, right? Because everyone kind of has their own scene, and then somehow, some way, you all
even though we
together.
never really see them in school.
Right, we saw them in detention, but Saturday detentions were a real thing at my high school. So
seriously?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Saturday detentions were real because there were so many people getting. Too many people had in-school suspension. So the solution my high school came up with was Saturday detentions, and wow. I am lucky enough to be able to say I never once got Saturday detention.
Wow, good for you.
I was a good boy.
Yeah, I don't think I ever got detention in my life. I think maybe once.
Oh, that's a different story. I got plenty of detention. No in-school suspensions, though.
Yeah, no, I was definitely a very obedient child.
Same, but what did that say about it? Are we conformists? Is that what that's saying?
I guess, surprisingly, us.
Yeah, I guess well, when you're gay, right, you had to try to fit in and make as little waves as possible in high school, so.
This is true, and I did just that.
Yeah, as so did our main characters in these teen movies that we're about to cover, which are quintessential 90s teen movies. And I guess maybe for the 2020s, we'll see. Time will tell. But She's All That, 1999's Darling, starring Freddie Prinze Jr. and Rachel Leigh Cook, and 2021's He's All That.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's a phrase that everyone is still using in 2021, all that.
Yeah, seriously, that's a very 2021 TikTok Gen Z term.
Yeah, we have opinions, guys. So
as always.
So with that said, I'm Rolando.
And I'm Nicole.
And this is Remakes, Reboots, and Revivals.
An original podcast
about unoriginality.
I would love it if one week we were like, hey guys, we were going to do this episode, but we have no opinions. We have nothing to say.
Well, I feel like that might be the case this week with both you and Eddie Z.
Interesting. Okay.
I feel like I will be the first to admit that I'm the one who kind of pushed for this movie for us to cover it. Only because She's All That is a movie that I did see not when it came out. I saw it maybe a year later. I saw it in 2000 because the way I saw it was me and my friends in 8th grade, we got together and we wanted to watch high school movies to see what high school is going to be like. And of course, She's All That was one of the ones on the list. And talk about terrifying because it's just like, oh my God, this is what the popular kids do. They make bets on you. What?
Yeah, seriously. Yeah. And they're all white and well off and beautiful.
Well, we knew that wasn't going to be the case for us because
that's true.
We
Back
were in
then,
Hudson
that was
County.
just a given. Yeah.
you know, like we knew where we were from. We weren't blind to that kind of stuff just yet. But as usual, do you want to kick things off, Nicole?
Well, yeah. So I have a question for you, Rolando.
Oh, you have
and
questions.
Also Eddie Z.
Hi, Eddie.
Who's here. He's super excited for this one.
Yeah. Super.
How familiar are you guys with Pygmalion?
Very familiar, actually. I was actually telling, we were watching He's All That. I was telling Eddie all about it because Eddie thought that like the pre-generator for these kinds of movies was Sabrina. And I was like, oh no, it goes beyond that. It goes way
Sabrina with Audrey Hepburn?
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Okay. I never thought about Sabrina being a Pygmalion of sorts.
It's not the typical Pygmalion, right? Like, it's not one that will be, but there are elements.
Yeah. So now when I ask you how familiar are you with Pygmalion, are you talking about the Greek mythological figure, or are you talking about the George Bernard Shaw play?
I'm talking about the play, not the source of the name Pygmalion.
Yes. Well, so the source of, do you know where the story comes from of who Pygmalion is?
It's like a sculptor, this guy, and he fell in love with the sculpture.
He falls in love with his own sculpture, pretty much, and that right there can sum up where this conversation is going to kind of go, because Pygmalion is about Henry Higgins, who well, actually no, that's My Fair Lady.
Do you have?
Yes, actually, it is. It's the same characters. I wanted to make sure. I had to make sure. So Henry Higgins, with some pressure, says I can take any girl, and I could take the most disgusting Cockney street creature and turn her into a glamorous, woman. And then he does, and he falls in love with her, even though they have a terrible relationship.
He wasn't pressured though. He was just making the bets because he just happened upon her on a rainy day.
Yes.
Him and his coworker. They're both. He was a
Pickering.
Yes, and he was a language teacher, right?
He was a linguist. Yeah.
Linguist. Okay.
Yeah, and he
wanted to show, which is like, I can make anyone. You can make any. You could pearls to swine, pearls to swine, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Because he believes in the power of language and dialect, and here people who speak Cockney accents. Some might say abuse the English language, which is what Henry Higgins would say.
And they're usually associated with the lower class.
Yes, that too. And Northerners and it's this whole thing. So that's the basis of it. People might be familiar with Pygmalion because they turned into a musical with Audrey Hepburn. First Julie Andrews, then Audrey Hepburn, My Fair Lady.
Oh, so we're covering a semi. This is the third. Fourth. This is
kind of. Well, so it's interesting because this whole idea of reinventing oneself or being, makeovers, right? It's an old story, and we get a lot of different versions of it. The most famous, and I think the most iconic, being Pygmalion. And actually, She's All That is definitely based on Pygmalion to an extent.
I mean, I would say My Fair Lady is probably the most famous one.
My Fair Lady is absolutely the most famous and most direct one. I mean, Henry Higgins, Eliza Doolittle, these are the names. But I would argue that in the 80s and the 90s, I think we kind of had a big fascination in teen movies in particular with Pygmalion-esque stories, because even look at Clueless, right? Even Clueless is about someone who is trying to make over people and kind of control their lives. And an extent, now this is more Clueless Jane Austen's Emma.
Yeah, that was Emma.
But even that, to an extent, is a different version of this story.
Well, then you would argue, your argument here is that Jane Austen is the grandmammy of
well, so going back to the idea of the Greek mythological figure, a man who falls in love with his statue,
with his sculpture.
with your own creation kind of a thing.
See.
This idea, it went into Pygmalion. That's the most famous form of it. But there's been other forms of it, from Jane Austen to She's All That, even Pretty in Pink. You could name a lot of 80s and 90s movies that kind of fall and adhere to this kind of.
But isn't there an
story
though? Isn't there an element where it's the person being made over is not totally aware of the intention behind the person who's make them over?
That's definitely what's going on in She's All That for sure. But sometimes it's the case, sometimes it's not.
Not in My Fair Lady. In
Pygmalion, all makeover characters are Pygmalion characters. Then I mean,
so,
it just becomes encompassed of a lot, though.
I think Pygmalion though is more about not just the makeover itself. I think is there not being aware of the makeover.
Always the idea of there's a bet. There's
Eliza
an
Doolittle knows that she's pretty much an experiment.
Okay.
In Pygmalion and My Fair Lady, and that she is he's almost like, you should be thankful that I'm doing this for you, kind of a thing.
He was. I mean, that's because the guy was kind of a douche. She ends up falling in love with her, but so I don't know. In My Fair Lady, does she end up with him or no? I never saw My Fair Lady. Okay, in the real one, they do not end up together. She actually kind of,
which is more fitting, yeah.
Right. She walks away from this hot mess, and she's just like, I'm not going to let you, you mistreated me. And she calls him out on it, so she ends up walking out on the relationship.
Yeah, she becomes so good. Even to an extent, A Star Is Born is a version of this story, I would argue. Somebody who he discovers her, right? That idea of discovering someone and then taking credit for them, building them up to the point where they surpass you and they don't need you anymore.
Yeah, I guess so. But like as Nicole said, Pygmalion is more about like the idea of the person who is reshaping the other person ends up falling in love with that creation.
Yes.
Right. I would say that would be the more important element of the Pygmalion story. Whether or not there's a bet, whether or not, because there wasn't a bet in Pygmalion. They were just like, it was like a friendly wager. They were just kind of showing off their skills.
Yes.
And
slightly different. Yes.
Yeah, it was like because it was the Pygmalion was also more a commentary on society, not even like it wasn't a love story per se. It was more about the way society treats the lower classes. It's
Absolutely.
a very classist story, which is something that still carries over, I would say, into the 90s and the 2020s version.
Oh,
to some extent.
So am I supposed to hear your microphone?
Do you not hear my microphone?
I don't. I just realized that. I usually do, especially when Eddie spoke. I was like, wait a minute. I don't really hear him, so.
Do you hear me now?
Yes. Okay, cool. So you were recording, right? It was just a
No, yeah. It was just on Zoom.
All right, sweet. Absolutely. And I think that the idea of not only making people over, because everyone loves a good makeover and everyone loves like even home makeovers and all that stuff. But molding, the idea of molding into someone into who you want them or you think they could be, or what even maybe society wants them to be, is something that we're still kind of really into, I think, as a story, which is why I think She's All That is so successful, at least in terms of like a movie that people really like and people will like the fact that it warrants a remake in this day and age, whether or not that remake was needed. So She's All That.
Interesting. You said a lot there.
We set it up. We set it up big. We're going there. I mean, I had to think of something for this damn episode.
I just don't know. Do people really think of She's All That much? I know that it's like the main spoof movie for like not another teen movie.
It is, which I think is the only remake we needed of this movie. I mean, I think anything requires or could, get a deep dive into it and be like, oh, hey, this is what it's about, Like,
all right.
So, I know it's just entertainment, but still, even then.
Of course.
So.
I mean, I picked it, so.
Exactly. So 1989 was a really good year for movies,
Is it every year?
No, 1989 was a really good year, I think, for movies.
What did we get?
We got Fight Club that year.
Oh, okay.
We got, I just had it. The Sixth Sense came out.
Oh, that is a good one.
Yeah. I think the movie that won that year, the Oscar, was that American Beauty? It might have been American Beauty.
That's another good movie. Are we allowed to say that?
That it was a good
Kevin
movie?
Spacey?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't write it. It wasn't his brainchild.
Didn't he get an Oscar?
Yeah, he did.
He did, yeah.
Whatever. It happened. The Matrix came out that year.
And that's coming out pretty soon again.
Yes, it is.
Oh my God, the 99.
We're covering it.
It's coming back with a vengeance.
Yeah. A really great movie called The Green Mile. I don't know if you've seen that.
Of course I've seen The Green Mile.
Great movie. Eyes Wide Shut. And in terms
never
of...
seen that.
I think it's a great movie. In terms of teen movies, that's the year Never Been Kissed came out.
That's a good one.
That's a good movie. That's the year Cruel Intentions came out.
That's a great teen movie.
That's the year 10 Things I Hate About You came out.
That's another. Yeah. Okay. These are like.
Yeah. Right. So
teen movie galore.
This is the year that She's All That came out.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing because rewatching this film, I didn't realize just how many people got their start in this movie, or at least it was one of their first movies. This is by 2021 standards a pretty all-star cast.
Who?
So we got Freddie Prinze Jr.
This is not his breakout. He already was a star.
No, it's not his. But Rachel Leigh Cook is the stars. But Matthew Lillard, who Scream, yeah, he was pretty much a star by then. But Paul Walker, he wasn't really a star.
I think Paul Walker was a nobody. Yeah.
Yeah.
When this movie came
Anna
out.
Paquin as Freddie's sister. Kieran Culkin even. Usher.
Yes.
This was before
And
Usher
Usher.
was like a huge star. So like I was like, oh wow, all these people.
Yes.
I didn't realize, and this was before they were pretty legitimate stars.
I forgot
and it's
Anna
funny,
Paquin
too.
was in it until I was rewatching it, and I had to like stop this thing. I was like, wait, is that Anna Paquin? I didn't even realize she was in this movie.
Yeah, yeah. And she has my favorite line too. She's like, "Let me introduce to you the not improved, just different character." You know, it's like nice, very cool. I dig it.
I'm so glad the writers caught that. It's just
Yeah, they were like, "Oh wait, we can't say new but improved." Maybe they caught it on set.
yeah,
Maybe.
and the script editor was just like, no, you can't say this. Women will hate you.
Yes. So, so when they were coming up with this movie, they actually wanted to pretty much make like a John Hughes movies for the 90s, for the late 90s. And it's interesting too because this movie's kind of full of like Easter eggs of other movies. The character Lainey Boggs is actually a reference to Winona Ryder.
Who's Lady Boggs?
Lainey Boggs is the main
Lainey.
character.
Oh,
Yeah.
the main character. Okay, Lainey. I think
Yeah. Because Winona Ryder.
Boggs, right?
I was just like, who is that? I don't remember a Lady Boggs.
Winona Ryder's character in Edward Scissorhands is Kim Boggs, and in Reality Bites, her name is Lainey Pierce, Lainey Boggs.
Oh, that's okay. Got it. Cute.
And then I think they got the character of Zach Taylor actually from two members of Hanson.
Okay.
Zach Hanson and Taylor Hanson. But yeah, but the rest of it,
How
you
is
know,
that
they
a
just
John
kinda-
Hughes reference?
no, well, the rest of the movie, it was just the fact that the director, Robert Iscove, who actually the film that he directed right before this was the Brandy Cinderella, which we talked about last week.
Last week, yeah.
Yeah. He wanted to make a John Hughes movie kind of for that generation. You know,
I
'cause it was
will
something that he
say,
grew up
yeah.
in.
I mean, you
like-
could see the John Hughes influence on this, right?
For sure,
This
yeah.
wasn't because this one compared to some of the other teen. So let's talk about the teen movies that came out that year, right? Like Cruel Intentions. That was just a glossy, hypersexualized, like.
And another makeover story.
It is another makeover story too. Yes, that what it is. That
And
one.
so is 10 Things I Hate About You.
10 Things I Hate About You. Yeah, I mean, makeovers were hot, I guess, then. What year did Queer Eye come out?
Oh, in like 2002.
Oh, so these even predate that. You know what?
Mhm.
You know what? Queer Eye is copycats. But all right. So, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. So, Cruel Intentions, like this really glossy, really like hypersexualized movie. I remember it was scandalous because Sarah Michelle Gellar made out with Selma Blair, right?
Scandalous.
It was so scandalous back then, and it kind of had like more. It had more like it had like a little bit of an edge, if I remember that movie, right? At
Yeah.
least compared to She's All That, which felt like almost like wholesome, right?
Mhm,
And then you also have 10 Things I Hate About You, which felt a lot more. I don't know. It just didn't feel like this movie. It just has like almost like, again, it has like a different edge, right? It feels like a product of the 90s, where this one feels more like it's trying to be something from the 80s almost.
Yeah.
Would you agree or disagree with that?
I guess I could see that. I do think that also She's All That was just trying to have a little bit more fun than maybe some of the other movies. This and Never Been Kissed, I feel like, are just, they don't take themselves too seriously, but like the moments that are meant to be heartfelt are actually kind of heartfelt.
Yeah. Well, when Never Been Kissed, though, that's like one of those interesting. Like, yeah, it takes place in a high school, but like she's a 30-year-old woman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not. I don't know if I would count that as one of the high school movies.
Yeah.
Per se.
Even I count it, and I actually love that movie because I love Drew Barrymore in it.
I mean, yeah,
She's
it's
just
a good
wonderful in
movie.
it. Yeah. I mean, it's a good movie. I don't know, but Drew Barrymore is so perfectly cast that it's such an enjoyable movie for me.
Right.
Anyway, but She's All That. Like we said, it's Pygmalion, so it's really simple. Zach Taylor is one of the most popular guys in school.
An unreasonable level of popularity, right? Because he has like good
He
grades.
has control over people.
Yeah, he's like the captain of the soccer team. He's a president of the school, of the class. You know what I mean? It's just like pick a lane, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, the fact that he gets dumped by his girlfriend is just not good for his reputation.
Right. Obviously.
And he gets kind of he gets egged on by his guy friends, you know, like, hey, you know, we're gonna give you a bet to see if you could turn any random girl into a prom queen within 6 weeks. and they choose Lainey Boggs. And a couple years later, a parody of teen movies, because they were so prolific in the 90s, came out called Not Another Teen Movie. And they make fun of this point so beautifully, Not Another Teen Movie, where, she's unpopular, but she's also supposed to be ugly.
Right.
But the character of Lainey Boggs, played by really attractive Rachel Leigh Cook, is not ugly in any way.
Oh, yeah, she's
and the
gorgeous.
only thing that she's gorgeous, and the only thing that makes her by any means quote ugly is the fact that she wears glasses. Maybe
she
and
wears
has her
glasses
hair
and
in
it
a
has
ponytail.
like a haircut that's a little too long for her, I guess.
Yeah,
and
and she's in like baggy overalls with paint on
like
it.
which shockingly is like 2020s lesbian fashion, I found out. So
apparently the director realized how he could not turn Rachel Leigh Cook, like she wasn't ugly and there was no way she was ever going to be ugly, so he compared it to the transformation of Clark Kent into Superman.
Yeah, I can see that. That's so funny. And it's it's such a funny scene in the original one, but even in this one though, it's kind of cringy because just like these glasses are just gonna take them off and just like, wow, she's gorgeous. It's like,
I'm gonna constantly refer to Not Another Teen Movie because I think it's such a it has stupid moments, but the parts that work so well. The transformation scene, she literally takes off the glasses, takes down her ponytail. She's like, I did it. I'm a genius.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Lainey she's unpopular. She's an artist, right? And it's so interesting. And she's kind of, she's dorky. She kind of keeps to herself. She hangs out with like other like quote weirdos like goth kids or whatever.
Well, that's the thing. No, she doesn't hang out with those goth kids. Those goth kids were so mean to her.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Sorry. Oh my god.
Yeah,
so this is I texted you when I was rewatching the movie. I'm just like, my god, I didn't realize how dark this was because those goth kids come to her and they are complimenting her on her art and they're saying, like, how like some artists are so ahead of their time, but like no one really recognizes anything until they die. You should go kill yourself. And they were, I think, and I was like watching this. I'm just like, oh my god, like this is
terrible.
That is awful. That is such a heinous thing to say. People get canceled nowadays. Yeah, she's from The Faculty.
Yes,
her.
Yeah, oh, that's right. Clea Duvall is also in this. Who, I mean, for lesbians, she's more prolific than she must be.
Yes.
But yeah, like another one. I totally forgot about that.
You also didn't give it a shout out to Gabrielle Union or Lil Kim.
Yes, Lil Kim. See, so I kind of breezed through the movie. I just did a refresher. I didn't watch the entire thing from start to finish because I feel like I've seen this movie.
Oh,
like I know it from
so
like the back
times.
of my head, but I guess not Clea Duvall or Gabrielle Union or Lil Kim. But yeah, so she's more so a loner. Let's say that about Lainey Boggs.
She is a loner, and we find out the reason she's a loner is because her mother passed away, and that kind of left a hole in her heart.
Yeah, she has some trauma, and that does affect young people. It affects everyone,
of course.
Like more so when you're younger, you don't really know how to process all of that.
Definitely,
so that's her reason. And yeah, I mean, Zach pretty much just begins this whole wooing thing of her. Doesn't tell her, obviously, what his true intentions are. And
she's kind of suspicious from the get-go.
She is, as she should be.
Right.
Yeah, so slowly but surely, they get to know each other. They fall in love. She has a really famous, I think at least, it's pretty iconic, her reveal of her transformation. She walks down.
The red dress.
Kiss Me by Sixpence None the Richer plays. The red dress. And like, she doesn't look that different, but she looks really nice.
I mean, it's a great look, right?
It is a great look, yeah.
You know what? Like, if you had asked me before I rewatched the movie, like, is that the scene right before the prom? I'd be like, yeah, that's what she wears to the prom. And that's like, no, that's like halfway through the movie. The prom doesn't even happen for like another half hour.
Yeah, seriously. That's when I watched Tease All That and I saw that she wore a red dress. I was like, wait a minute, did she wear the red dress But that was
Well, yeah. I had the same thought because I even paused it. I'm like, oh my god, Eddie, this red dress is a reference to the dress that she wears at prom. Turns out I was wrong. She did not wear it to prom. She wore it to a party where. Can we talk about how also mean Zach's girlfriend was or ex-girlfriend?
Yeah, she was a bitch.
Horrific person, right? Like she cheats on him, right? And then when she cheats on him with Matthew Lillard, who's playing like a MTV reality TV show kind of guy, right? And to great effect also. And when he ends up breaking it off with her, and they both say these lines that I actually, when I was rewatching, I thought they were smart. more so on her. When she breaks up with Zach, she says, "Oh, you didn't really think we're gonna like stay together after high school, did you?" Which I thought was a smart thing for a teen movie to say, because like that's usually what they project. These relationships are everlasting. These relationships are ever. And right from the very beginning, they really make a point to say it's just like, oh, these relationships don't last, which is kind of a sad thing if you think about it, because at the end, Lainey and Zach do end up together, but we know the reality is they probably won't end up together.
They're a doomed relationship. Yeah.
Right. No, I mean, very few. No one is a Corey or Topanga,
Yeah, and if they are, there might be a lot of stunted issues there.
Agreed. I agree on that one. But she ends up, I don't know. She was just so mean. She cheats on this guy, and then like when he finally has like a new girl that he's interested in, she's doing everything she can to get in the way for no reason. It's just like, you chose the reality TV show douchebag.
Yeah, she's a villain for the sake of being a villain, and she's very unsympathetic.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like, I feel like sometimes when you need a villain, it's just like, oh, just because she's a bitch, right? And when a person's a bitch, there's no other redeeming qualities to them, apparently.
Well, that was her irredeemable quality. What about his best friend, played by Paul Walker, though?
Yeah,
he was another
terrible.
asshole. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This was another one who the only way you could have made him worse if he gone on full rapey at the end, which we never got to see.
Yes,
it's implied.
It is, yeah.
But like, I think we never see it.
They definitely portray teenagers as assholes, selfish assholes,
right.
And I mean, there are selfish assholes in this world, so I'm not going to be like, that's unrealistic. But it's always, I like to see some redeeming qualities in people, and they didn't give me any with these people.
Yeah, this is true. Very, very true.
And it's interesting because I feel like Zach actually, they spent so much time on trying to give redeeming qualities to Zach. They wanted to actually give him an arc because, he's like some preppy jerk in the beginning. And then he actually kind of redeems himself towards the end when, he realizes, oh my God, I shouldn't have made her into a bet, and she's an actual person instead of just like whether she's a pretty face or not a pretty face or whatever.
Yep.
And I feel like an asshole, and my friends are assholes, and I don't want to be like that. And there's even some like angst about, who he wants to be in his future. Like, school's ending, and they all kind of feel the anxiety about what's next in their lives. And that's kind of like hovering over them and like becoming adults, so it's almost as if like the Zach character is starting to embrace becoming an adult more so than his other friends.
Yeah. Which in retrospect is kind of like, I feel a little shoved in. Right?
Yeah.
Because there's like a scene where like his dad is yelling at him about like not applying to colleges or like missing the deadlines and stuff. And I was just, I forgot about that scene as a kid. Rewatching it, I'm just like, where is this storyline coming from? Like, does he have like straight A's and like he's captain of the side? I'm sure he'll be fine.
Yeah.
Why?
It was, they wanted to add that dimension to it and relatability and, be like, hey, these are just some lost kids at the end of the day. Which, I appreciate the effort.
I suppose.
But I mean, other than that, did you feel that like the characters of Zach and Lainey were, well fleshed out characters? Were you watching it?
Necessarily, maybe not the most well fleshed out characters, but for like not even the 90s, for a teen rom-com, right? I think they hit the marks and stuff. But
they can't all be Cher.
Oh.
From Clueless.
I thought you meant like Cher. I was just like, what teen movie did she do? I don't. And now I want to see Cher her age in a teen movie.
Oh my God, she'd be great.
She would still be great. She would still be fucking. Oh my God, they should remake Never Been Kissed with Cher.
With Cher. I would so fucking see
people
that.
Would watch that.
Yeah, and then she could cover that Beach Boys song that plays at the end.
Which one?
Anyway, Don't Worry, Baby.
Oh,
Baby, that plays. I would do my Cher impersonation, but we're getting too carried away with Cher right now. I think Cher in Clueless is a great example of like a character who just goes through an arc, who learns a lot. She actually goes through a lot of humiliation.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really nice to see her, kind of be queen bee, get embarrassed, and then like kind of actually become like, a girl.
Right.
Based on her experiences. And Zach doesn't get as embarrassed, I think, as he should have. I think Lainey suffers more of her own humiliations, but Zach not so much.
Well, Lainey was suffering humiliation after humiliation. Like, first she
seriously.
gets
Like
at the
the girl needs a
party,
break.
they just they throw, I think, booze on her, and she has like the ugliest run though, where she's just like, she's just waving her arms. It's just like
They made fun of that really well in another teen movie too.
and they also made fun of it also in Scary Movie.
Yes,
when Cindy's just running, like maybe she was making fun of Nev Campbell, but like it's such an ugly run. It's just like the director was just like, go exaggerate the shit out of that.
Yeah.
And of course like the main
Oh, I
humiliation,
love
which
it.
is just like when you find out that you're a bet, and it's just I remember as a kid when I watched this, I'm just like, man, what a horrible feeling. Like this is high school's gonna be so. Is this what high school's gonna be like? Like I don't want to
Yeah.
be that loser that
Like
gets.
if you're different, this
be
is
a
what high
bet-
school is gonna be like. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such a. It really instills like this fear, and it on some level, right? Like we're not. The movie never goes out of its way to praise Lainey for her individuality.
Yeah.
In fact, she gets rewarded when she conforms.
Yeah,
which-
she becomes popular.
Uh-huh.
People are stop being mean to her.
She becomes like a runner-up for prom queen, so like I don't know, is this the right message for a teen movie now in retrospect, right? Me watching it as an adult thinking about that, where it's just like, well, I don't know, like she was an individual, like yeah, she was a loner, but like when she goes to college and she drinks a little, like I'm sure that'll change.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. It
I
also
don't know.
sucks at the end when, she realizes she's a bet, but then she like gets with the Paul Walker guy, and then he almost gets to rape her, and then like Freddie Prinze Jr. has to come in and save the day.
Well,
It's like,
he
oh my
doesn't
gosh.
save the day. So that's the thing. I do appreciate that, right? So we don't see what happens, but like she comes home, and I think the implication was there that she had sex with Paul Walker, but when she ends up talking to Freddie Prinze, she is like, "Oh no, yeah, he tried to move on me, and I fucking, I think she blew a blowhorn into his ear. I fucked up his hearing, and that's what happens to him. So that's why at the end when he's in graduation, he can't hear well.
Oh shit! Look at that.
Yeah, so I mean,
The only humiliation Zach suffered was at the end when he goes to graduation naked, but he did it on his own fucking terms anyway.
he did it on his own terms, and like if I looked like that, like who wouldn't be walking around naked?
Yeah, seriously.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm tall and skinny and handsome. Like,
Yeah. The movie almost doesn't like.
like,
Yeah, and you look like Freddie Prinze Jr. The
And I look
movie
like-
thinks that it really praises him. It
Mhm.
doesn't want to like show him in any real unfavorable light. And even though what he did was pretty shitty, the movie never really kind of goes with that. Like it doesn't really shame him too hard and let you see what that's like and make it uncomfortable for you.
I agree. I mean, to be honest, if this wanted to correct even the mistakes of Pygmalion, she should have not ended up with obviously Freddie Prinze Jr. She should have been like, no, I don't want you either. And she should have ended up with her best friend, played by that kid from Mighty Ducks. I forgot his name in Mighty Ducks, but he was also in Daredevil, Foggy.
Foggy?
That's it. I don't.
Is that his character's name in the movie?
Foggy? I
Foggy.
don't know. No.
He is the character's name in Daredevil.
That's the character's name in Daredevil. I don't know what his character.
Oh.
He was like the kid who worked who was in the alley, like he was like too old for high school or whatever.
Oh, okay, yeah, Jesse.
I
That's
thought Jesse
the friend's
was Joshua
name.
Jackson.
No. In Mighty Ducks?
Yeah, isn't that wasn't that Joshua Jackson's character?
No.
Oh, you know what? I guess I didn't pay that much attention when we covered Mighty Ducks.
His last name was Conway, but what was his first name?
Yeah, but you know who I'm talking about, right? He's like the tank, I think is what they called him as a nickname or something. Or like the train.
Charlie Conway. Yeah, he was. Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah,
That's why.
So he was.
his
Yeah, he
actor-
was in.
yeah.
He was in this movie. He played.
Yeah, he plays Jesse.
the best friend, right?
Mhm,
And
yes. He should've, yeah.
and that's who I think.
But he
should
needs
have
to go
ended up
through
with.
his own makeover in order for him. Because the thing is, become pretty and shallow and just look at people for their statuses and
That
how
could've-
attractive they are. That's like at the end how it plays out.
So it would have been the sequel.
Maybe. Yeah.
All right, I see. Okay.
I feel like that's its own other movie too.
Right.
That's its own other genre, and where it's like the best friend. It's like all this time, the love of my life was right here next to me.
Wasn't
you
that
know?
one of the
Yep.
Some Kind of Wonderful is one of the best one of the best
Okay.
ones I
Oh,
saw.
I never saw
Yeah.
that.
That's very good. You'll like it.
There's not
Oh.
another Molly Ringwald movie like that
Probably.
where it was her best friend all along.
I don't remember that
You
one.
might be thinking of Pretty in Pink, but she never got with Ducky. She got with Andrew McCarthy.
Oh,
So
maybe I am thinking of
maybe
Pretty in Pink.
maybe you projected that ending because that's what
Possibly.
everybody wanted.
Right.
A nice actually reworking of this classic Pygmalion story is the story of Cyrano de Bergerac, who's this guy who has a big nose and he's a poet and he's very romantic and he's in love with Roxanne, but Roxanne would never cast an eye on Cyrano because of the way he looks.
Excuse me. Doesn't that book predates Pygmalion?
Yeah, well, but I'm saying in terms of this story,
Uh-huh.
it's like the reversal of it. And so, the guy uses Cyrano's words to woo Roxanne, and then after a while she realizes actually that it's Cyrano that she's in love with because what she's in love with is what's inside,
Yes.
not outside. So it's a nice reversal of it. Also, they're doing a new Cyrano, and we will be covering it this year.
Oh, thank God. Oh my God. Any chance to watch Roxanne starring Steve Martin?
Ah, yeah.
Yeah.
You know who's actually going to be in this version of Cyrano?
Is it Steve Martin?
No. He's already done it. Peter Dinklage?
Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that casting, and
See
so
that.
Yeah. I'm
I'm
very
excited
curious to
to
see this.
cover it.
I hope that is it going to be like a theatrical release or is it going to be like a
It's coming out around Christmas, so
all right.
we'll see where
We'll
things
see.
are by then.
We'll see
And
where we
the
are.
the female version of that one was The Truth About Cats and Dogs with Uma Thurman.
Oh, I've never seen that one. I only know the
same
title though.
Yeah, the same idea. It's like the beautiful girl attracted to the new guy, but then it's her like new best friend who's kind of frumpy. Is like giving her like the
That's right. Yes,
yeah.
I remember this.
Giving
movie,
her the
Janine
voice.
Garofalo. Yeah. Mhm.
Wait, so who was the frumpy one? Did they make Uma Thurman
Janine
frumpy?
Garofalo.
Okay, that makes sense. That tracks. That tracks.
Oh, this is fun. We'll get to do all the different versions of Cyrano. But yeah. So, any last thoughts on She's All That before we move towards
He's all
He's
that.
all
I'm
that.
trying to
one of my favorite jokes in not another teen movie that is also just in, I guess, in teen movies in the 90s in general is the Token Black character and how they're at the party and he's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I'm the token black guy. There can only be one of us." Speaking of the lack of diversity in these films.
which is interesting,
Um,
right? There was a lot more diversity in this film than I remember. Granted,
Like-
they were like secondary Gabrielle Union, Little Kim, Gus from
Usher. Yeah, I
Gus-
guess.
Gus from Psych, who was like he was in the posse.
Yeah, Dual Hill. Yeah, Dual Hill. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I expected
I mean,
them to
they
have
were
bigger
secondary. They were
roles,
like, yeah, they
but-
weren't the main characters, but they were orbit
there.
enough where I saw them enough to recognize that, like, oh, it's not all white as I remember, but it wasn't enough. Obviously, I'm just saying, it's just like,
Yeah.
it's not Bring It On.
It is not Bring It On, which also came out in 1999.
Shut up. 1999 was a great year for teen movies.
I told you.
Oh my god, Bring It On is what that is. I hope they never remake it, but I hope we get to cover it on the podcast. You know what I mean?
Maybe they'll do a film version of the musical.
Oh, maybe. I wouldn't. That seems like something that could happen.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want to watch it, but
Oh, really? Okay. So She's All That was a major success. Actually, the box office to this film was $7 to $10 million, and it grossed $103 million.
yeah, teen dramas,
dramas, man.
teen rom-coms.
But this movie, I mean, this movie was released in January of 1999.
I was
but
had a
like,
whole year to. remake
yeah, and like movies, especially at that time that were released in January, they were going against the Oscar contenders and all of like the movies that were finally getting their releases from the year left over. So like January movies, nobody has faith in them. January, February, and yet here we are, all these years later, talking about She's All That. Look at that. They didn't realize what they had on their hands.
Yep.
And we're talking about it because there's a Netflix remake, and they did a role reversal, and this time it's He's All That.
Yep.
So, do you know anything about? Do you know why this happened, Rolando?
So my guess is that
guess.
somebody had the rights to this movie and was like, "Yo, let's redo this movie, but also to make sure that we get an audience, let's cast a TikToker." Right? And Addison Rae was cast, and voila, a movie is made.
Yeah, actually, I'm talking about production history. Like there was all of this to it, but that's all it takes these days. What movie have we not remade? Oh,
But
we could
I
do
mean-
that. Like, but
Is
instead
it-
of she's all that,
he's
he's
all that. Yeah. I mean, look, I had no idea this movie. I had no idea this movie was in production. Sorry, everyone, if you hear my dog. But I had no idea this movie was in production. It kind of just like dropped in August, and I was like, when Netflix is recommending things, I see He's All That, and I'm just like, wait, is that a remake of She's All That? It can't be. And you look at the description, it's like, it's a remake of She's All That. Why am I just now finding out about this while we're on vacation from remakes, reboots, and revivals? How dare you, Netflix? You have no respect for our podcast.
Actually, speaking of no respect, I heard that they closed a COVID testing center just so they could film this movie. They're like, oh, we want this location, so we're going to close a COVID testing center and people can't access it.
Was that a high school?
I'm
I'm assuming the high school was a COVID testing center.
maybe.
Right?
I don't know the exact filming location, but it might be.
That would be my guess, right? Usually
That
high
would be.
schools probably served as like a campus to thing, and that's pretty bad PR.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's set this film in a negative direction.
But
before it was even
when was the
released.
closure? Like, were they already
December
planned?
2020?
Oh, that's like no. I'm
That
gonna.
was like second wave era.
It's because by then they were already like the vaccine was already on the horizon. I think like at that point, like the tests were much more widely available. So I'm assuming that center was probably on its way to be closed soon.
Well,
I'm playing
they
devil's
reversed
advocate here.
Yeah, they reversed the decision and they opened it back up. I think it was at Union Station in Los Angeles. So I don't think it was a high school.
Okay.
Because they
and
got
that seemed-
such bad PR over it. So.
Right. Okay. I don't know. I'm just saying. It's just like I'm neither here nor there for it.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, whatever. But yeah, continue.
What?
I went in with that. So
I don't
think
know.
cut
What?
you off.
That's all I knew about the movie. I knew that Addison Rae was a TikToker, and my guess was just that like some company, whoever had the rights to this, was just like, yeah, let's just redo this, and we're destroying Addison Rae here.
So the director of this film is Mark Waters. He's known for directing one of the best high school movies of all time,
What is it?
Mean Girls.
Oh, shut up!
Mhm.
I love that for him.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's.
I love that for him too. He also directed a film called Freaky Friday.
I love
which,
that one too.
Which
Yeah,
we could totally cover on this podcast at some point because I think they're doing another one.
I'm sure they are.
He's done other films too. He did Ghosts of Girlfriends Past, The Spiderwick Chronicles, Just Like Heaven, Head Over Heels. So he's a continuously working director. But I would say he gave us Mean Girls, and Mean Girls is amazing.
Mm.
I wish high school was like that. Just because also, man,
Me
how
too.
quotable would high school have been?
Me too.
So obviously he was a natural choice for this. I actually think if you're gonna like do a film like this, you wanted to have the kind of sensibility that Mean Girls had, but they didn't get Tina Fey to write the script, so already that changed.
That's also true. I think this is interesting, right? Because I think a better director though might have been the guy who directed To All the Boys I've Loved Before.
Okay, I
I
had
feel
not
like-
seen that.
That's a very cute teen movie. I love teen movies. I think that one does. It's such a fresh. I think it's based off of a book, but it's such a fresh teen. It's such a fresh teen story that I kind of was here for it.
Okay, yeah, maybe they didn't want it. That sounds. You say cute and heartwarming. Maybe they didn't want it to be as
Yeah.
heartwarming.
Give me just one
They
second.
wanted it to be fun.
I'll just take him upstairs.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I know what he's upset about. Why did you put the
Because
box there?
I don't want him to go upstairs.
I know, but like, why didn't you put the?
Because I don't want him to go to the kitchen. I don't know.
You know how he gets when things are in order. Look, see, now he's just like, okay, everything is fine now. Oh my goodness. Okay. What would I say?
I think we were just talking.
Better hands, yeah, director.
Yeah.
But, okay, yeah. But like, I don't know, like, in his defense, like you said, he didn't write it either, though. So
Yeah. And I think they just probably wanted it to have a fun, possibly, just like whatever comedic, lighthearted, not heartwarming tone to it. So, Rolando, sum up the difference between She's All That and He's All That in terms of the plot for our audience.
Okay, so in He's All That, our main character is I forgot her name already. I just know her by her real life name, Addison.
And
she has
Paget.
a horrible name, Paget. What kind of a name is that?
We're in the new era, man. When we used to come from Stephanie's and Amanda's, now they're Pagets and
that
Sawyers
name drove me so crazy throughout the movie. Paget. All right, so Paget. Paget is a social media influencer.
Okay.
And she's using social media influencing as a way to save up for college because her mom works really hard just to afford the home they live in so they could go to the school district that she goes to. And she's living kind of like a double life where she has like this very glamorous life on social media and her friends think she's like, part of the wealthy elite, despite the fact that she is, not.
Yeah.
And what happens is her boyfriend, who's another TikToker, is in the middle of making a music video. Meanwhile, she's like on TikTok live and the whole world sees her be made a fool because he's cheating on her. And somehow the world turns on her. So she's a victim. She's a victim in this situation. And she is the one that gets ostracized by society, which I think if there's no truer statement made in a movie this year, I think it's right there. Because a woman can get cheated on and she is still the one that gets the shit end of the stick by society standards. Like, how fucked up is that? So she gets into a bet with one of her friends in her clique to, that they bet something. We don't know what the terms are of the bet in this one either until the very end. But they decide to go on through a bet that she thinks that because she made her previous boyfriend, right? Like she sculpted him. So she's just like, I could do it again. So they find another guy and they find the kid from Cobra Kai.
Yes.
And that's
Taylor Buchanan.
Taylor Buchanan. Okay.
Tanner. I'm so sorry. Tanner
Buchanan. I wasn't going to know.
Another name though that it's like Addison, Tanner, Madison. These are the leads names.
Interesting. Addison doesn't bother me as much. Neither does Tanner. But Paget, that's that. I mean, no greater sin has been created in cinema.
It's just these are the names of the next generation. Everyone's gonna have these names now.
Ashley,
no longer of Matthew or Freddie's or Rachel's.
Yeah. And so she goes out of her way to turn him into someone popular on Instagram too, like a boyfriend type of thing. And I don't know, he's kind of like a lot more standoffish than she is, so he is much more loner. He does film photography, he does horseback riding
these things that are considered uncool and unpopular. He's a photographer.
He's a photographer who works with horses. I'm just like, okay, like in what world are you a fucking loser?
Seriously, like these are terrible standards for unpopularity at this horrible school. Also, he's not ugly. Again, this is a person who they did a really bad job trying to hide or trying to make him quote ugly.
I don't know. I think they did a good job because I thought he was so unattractive in the before.
They just gave him a terrible wig, put a beanie over him.
It was a
they
pretty bad
did a
wig.
really weird job at trying to give him a beard or like a unshaven, unkempt kind of.
Oh, I thought they were giving him
thing.
like uneven skin. Like, how you need toner to like kind of like even it out.
If that was the case, though, like I don't know, I feel like that would have been more of an issue during the makeover part. But all they did was show that they shaved him.
It's true. I guess his skin was getting kind of blotchy.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that too until I saw that they just shaved him. So it was like, oh, that was just hair.
Okay.
So, and that was a weird makeup job if that was supposed to be just hair. So, he's a photographer. He does not give in to societal pressures. He's his own individual. He has dreams of traveling Europe, and he's uncool. And he's like he becomes, the joke of a bet essentially. It's really
right.
Weird.
The main reason he's uncool though is not because he not because of the things he does. He's uncool only because he has no social media, which I think might hold some merit, right? Where if you aren't on like Instagram or like TikTok or Twitter, who are you? You're nobody. You're like a mystery. You're like off the grid, basically, right? That's how I feel about my coworker who doesn't have any social media, and I'm just like, well, how?
Do you think they're happier for it?
Sometimes,
Yeah.
sometimes,
Isn't
not
it? Yeah.
not always,
Hmm.
because I mean they're not getting the constant rush of dopamine that we get.
Yeah.
You
This
know?
is true. Oh, I'm just getting mine right now. It's interesting though because this film doesn't really take, in my opinion, a stance on social media, whether or not like social media is good, social media is bad. It just simply is a part of everyone's lives.
Which, hang on, I think
Mhm.
that's fine. I think that's okay.
Which is fine. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't have a
because-
problem with that either.
Yeah, because I think it is just a part of our lives. Like, what was she gonna do? Have everyone stop using social media? Like, that's not realistic. That's a fantasy.
Yeah. So in the end, they actually do this thing where it's like, okay, so she's still using social media, but she's actually using it more as like,
Like
a promotion of
her.
her life and
Mhm.
like and her healthy relationship, I guess. So there's that, which I don't have a problem with. I think other people had a problem with because they were expecting it to be a harsher critique of social media, but then it's like they're making these statements on TikTok and Instagram, so it's like, what do you
Yeah. It's a hard thing for teen movies to critique social media when it's just like it's so prevalent in life. Like,
Yeah,
you just can't, like,
seriously.
you can't bring down the beast anymore, right? Like, it's too big.
Yeah, you got to learn to live with it. And this movie
Right.
is doing that, and that's fine. You know, it's interesting because I do think that people are being kind of unfairly mean to this movie.
To the movie?
Yeah.
Ooh, tell
Um,
me.
Well, here's the thing. I didn't go in this expecting much.
Oscars.
I kind of, yeah. I kind of was like, this movie is not going to be very good in some way.
Uh-huh.
And I think because of that, I was like, okay, sure. What I got was interesting and a little different.
Uh-huh.
And it fell a little flat, but it by no means was terrible. I think that I've seen way worse movies this year. I've seen way worse television shows this year, and people should be directing their anger and their negative opinions more towards those pieces than they are to
Right.
this. I think people like to shit on things that are teen based,
Uh-huh.
that are comedic based, and then also the fact that they turn it around and the main character is now a woman. But I will say that the character of Paget is not a very good character, and that's probably why people don't like it.
Oh, interesting. I actually liked Paget.
So I actually liked the actress, right?
Oh,
And
you like
I liked-
so,
I
okay.
like the actress, right?
Uh-huh.
Even though I think that her acting needs a lot of work, because all she does is like do this with her eyebrows. She like does this, crinkles her eyebrows, and
furrows them?
that's her acting.
Uh-huh.
That's her range. But the character of Paget has no
didn't we just talk about?
flaws.
Didn't we just talk about women bringing down women, Nicole? My God.
Hey, I'm talking about people here. I don't see sex right now.
Ooh. Okay.
The character of Paget has no flaws. When we meet her, she's a really sweet girl,
Mm-hmm.
and she's not mean to anybody, and she has a really great relationship with her mother,
Mhm.
and she's a good student, and
Mhm.
she's a good friend, and she gets cheated on by her boyfriend.
Mhm.
And Paget never really ever shows that she's a bad person. Paget never really is mean. Even
Right.
though she does this whole thing as a bet, she is kind of more so doing it because she likes to do makeovers because that's what she does.
Oh,
So
Just a little bit
God.
more too there.
yeah, she's doing it so that way she could get back into Khloe Kardashian's good graces.
yes, which
Get her
I couldn't
spots.
believe a Kardashian was in this. But it was also, I feel like her reasoning for doing this bet could have been more easily explained to Cameron better than like Zach could have explained it to Lainey, because his seemed more of like a butt of a joke thing,
Right.
where hers seemed more like an experiment, and it didn't seem as mean spirited.
You're telling me that hers was closer to the original Pygmalion.
Yeah, maybe.
Hmm.
But it's also like I don't know. I don't know if you guys agree with it. Like I feel like Paget had no arc in terms of she started off as a really nice person and she ended it as a this person.
Well,
Like,
yeah.
when did she learn anything about herself other than, I mean, and then she gives
But-
that whole speech at the prom night. Like, but what did you learn? You were a good person before this, and you're still a good person.
She learned that she can't, but all right, but her growth was, well, growth. I don't disagree with you, right? But I have a counter to you. But her
Okay.
growth was more so about the fact that, like, it's no longer just about her life, about chronicling. She wasn't showing just the best pictures anymore on social media was her goal, right? Which I think is not, again, I think when it comes to messaging, I think that's actually not as a negative message as it sounds, because, like, the problem we have with social media right now is that everyone face tunes the shit out of them. Like, hey, look, I'm even guilty of this. I throw a face smoother on my thing, and then people are just like, "Oh my god, you have great skin right now." I'm just like, "Oh, thank you." They don't know it's Photoshop.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But so, like, that's her that's her growth by the end. That she's not gonna just constantly be showing the best face of life or whatever. However, we just saw he's all that, and, like, the same thing happened with him. Like, he was like this fucking great student and stuff. Like, yeah, he had like a shitty bed, but, like, outside of that, like, he didn't really learn anything. He didn't do anything either.
I feel
'Cause-
like he had a little bit more of an arc than she did. Because
Nah,
he was
that
more
much
of like
more.
a kind of like a preppy jerk, and he did look down on Lainey.
She kind of looked down on him too because of his lack of social media.
I think that's one thing to look down on someone for not having social media, or to just to be confused by them in terms of physically finding someone kind of gross and beneath you, like he did towards Lainey, and she saw that.
I guess. Because I guess, and then the other thing I just lost my train of thought. Like, what was my other thing? Lainey. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, they are. Oh, yeah. So, our girls, Paget and Zach, like, while they are the main characters, the real growth and transformation always falls on the Eliza Doolittle character. They're the ones who have the transformative experience.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So the real growth that we're supposed to really be seeing is from the character. I don't remember his name
But
either.
but the main character is Henry Higgins. The main character is Zach. The main character is Paget. They also have to go through a transformation themselves. It's just not as physically apparent as
I think that
their
there's.
statues.
I think the
but-
transformation is usually more like a realization. It's not so much of a,
Yeah,
like,
it's this is a human being, and and
and
all
it's like,
this.
oh my god, I'm in love, like that kind
Yeah,
of thing.
but when you get from point A to point B in any story, you have to go through a change.
Mhm.
My point is that Paget goes through no change because who she was at the beginning, she still is at the end. We don't really see her change as a person in any way, even if it's a small change. We see that happen to Zach. We don't really see that happen to Paget because she's a really nice person from the beginning to the end. You know, it's not like she treats her mom any differently, or, you know, or she looks at her friends any differently. She's supportive of her friends. It's her friend that backstabs her for some fucking reason.
Okay, that's true.
And
yes.
also, you're saying that the social media thing that she might have learned, that she gave that speech about at prom, is, you know, like, oh, don't hide, present yourself as who you really are. But, like, Paget wasn't hiding behind face, you know, filters. She did makeup because makeup is an art that she wanted to get into. So it's like she's not really hiding it. She's just using social media as a platform to show her talent within the makeup world.
Right, but the thing is, though, but she's only posting. That's why when she has that slideshow, she's showing all, like, her worst photos, which are fine. Like, you know, like, her worst are, like, I wish I could.
Adorably cute.
Yeah, like, you know what I mean. But
Yeah.
you know what I mean. Like that's the other thing. Like, social
I
media
guess.
has this thing where, like, we only always show the very best moments. Like, if you look at my Instagram, it's a very curated. Even yours, Nicole. Even Eddie, I can't say that because Eddie, you are. I just realized you are the Tanner Buchanan character here because your presence on social media is.
He
like,
posted today about.
Did you
post
post?
that.
What did you post
Yeah.
today?
Book club.
Yeah.
I posted
Like,
book club.
wow. I liked it on all three of my accounts. And you
They're
didn't
gonna-
know about it.
Oh my god. Who are we, Nicole? Who are...
We've gotten here, I swear. And it's weird because, I mean, the movie also doesn't. It's hard to make that commentary on social media because it doesn't really take a social media is good or bad thing. But I guess the message too is like, oh, present yourself, be okay with who you are, and present yourself accurately or something. I don't know. But then
True,
it's also like,
I
then
guess.
that's a bad message for a film that's about a makeover. Because you're not embracing who you really are. Even
Well,
though
hang
what
on.
they're trying to say is that you are this person. You just have to love yourself and treat yourself better, perhaps.
Yeah, which that message
Um,
was there, right? When the little sister, who I thought was like adorable,
Yeah, that was the best part of the whole movie.
yeah,
I
and
mean-
when she just tells him, it's just like, this person you are, like, you haven't been this person since our mom died.
Yeah.
Now,
And
let's
that
talk
was the
about the
best
mom's.
acting in the entire movie.
I would agree.
Yeah.
The mom's death. That was like the most long-winded explanation for a mother dying. Like, she was flying a plane and the plane crashed or something. It was just like, that's a weird. You couldn't just say cancer or something, like, as a writer. Like, why did we have to go into this whole weird? Like,
Yeah, maybe it was based on somebody he knew.
I don't know.
Like, I don't know.
It was way too specific for me to be. I felt a little uneasy listening to that. I was just like, the writer is processing something.
It might have also been the actor's delivery, and we should talk a little bit about
No, it was
Cam.
weird writing. It was just weird.
It was a little bit of. I mean, the writing wasn't that great. So, we all love Cobra Kai here. Can't wait for it to come back.
Mhm.
So the character of Cam is played by Tanner Buchanan, who plays Johnny in Cobra Kai. And he showed some of his karate skills in this movie too.
Yes.
Um,
Obviously, because Netflix was just like, well, like, you have to do some karate, obviously.
yeah, obviously, like this is what people want. So he's still a young actor. He's still getting, his wits about him as an actor. Addison Rae is a TikTok star. So I'm going to leave it to the fact that they're still young and unexperienced, but I felt no fucking chemistry between these two.
Oh,
And
I did.
I think that every time something happened, I felt like I missed a beat. I'm like, oh, he's going on the stage to rescue her from a potentially catastrophic karaoke thing. When did he care that much? Like,
You
I
started-
felt like I missed that beat.
What are you talking about? His best friend Nishi was always there, saying, he's like, "Oh my god, bitch, are you crushing?"
Well, yeah, at that very
It
party
was-
she was.
It was very explicitly told to us. We didn't even have to see it. It was just told.
I don't know. Anytime
I
I
agree
saw
with you.
it, yeah,
I
it
agree
was
with you.
it was told to us pretty much, and I just didn't. I never really felt it.
Uh,
And I think that
I
I
agree.
enjoyed her overall more than I enjoyed him. I just did feel his acting was kind of flat for me.
Wait, Addison or Nishi, the best friend?
I liked Addison, although I do think that, like I said, her acting is just crunching her eyebrows. I enjoyed Nishi, and I enjoyed that they went there, and it's like, okay, cool, yeah. The only two minority girls fall in love with each other. That's cool. I take that.
I was cool with it. I thought it was.
And I wanted more time with
cute.
that. Yeah,
Yeah,
because it
I
was
would
just
agree.
kind of there.
You know
and
what?
we didn't
actually-
see them fall in love at all.
Well, you know what? I didn't need to see him fall in love. But what I did actually appreciate though with Nishi though was how protective she was of her friend though. I did
Yeah, that
love
was
that.
sweet.
That kind of there were. So that's the thing about this movie. I think there were some things that they did right.
Yeah, their friendship, they did
Their
right.
friendship was great. I
Yeah.
think the friendship between her name was Chloe, right? The friend, the best friend, the
Bryn?
Asian Bryn, the girl Nishi ends up with.
Oh, Quinn, not
Quinn.
Bryn. Quinn.
Well, Quinn, I think Quinn, even like, I actually ended up liking her character because she was caught in the middle, but she still made the right decision, right? Because like I feel like any other girl would have gone with whoever looks like they're going to win. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the little sister. But shockingly, one of my favorite moments of this movie was when the girls are looking for their target on who they're going to make over, and they're going through their list of guys. When they went on the chubby guy, right?
Sebastian Wu?
Sebastian Wu. Thank you, Eddie. At no point did they call out his physical attributes.
Mhm.
They always spoke about him, and they were actually quite the opposite, right? They were just like, oh, I don't know, a little bit of a hair product, and he'd be cute, right? And I thought, like, oh, what a breath of fresh air here on a teen movie where they're not criticizing his weight. And then they make a point just like, oh, by the way, didn't someone just buy his app? Oh my God, he's going to be a millionaire soon. So it's just like, I'm so happy for this kid. And
Yeah.
he actually had a little bit more. I mean, for a teen movie, he showed up like twice, I think, which I was just
No,
like,
for
okay,
sure.
that felt fresh. I wish they have more moments like this where like we have more like if one of the popular girls was a little heavier, right? Although
Exactly.
but I will say this about Addison Rae, why I actually also liked her in her casting. Well, I'm not saying that she is. I mean, she looks healthy, right? Which I think sometimes the problem with some of these teen movies is like they pick like really thin like body proportionates are like all over the, you know what I mean? And she looked like a very, very normal young girl because she's a TikToker.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I actually had like my own conversation with myself at that moment with Sebastian Wu, where I was like, "Oh, is this real? You know, would they actually ignore something like, wait, you know, because we're still working past it." But then I was like, well, this is how we get better representation, is if we fix these things, you know. So I had my own kind of like back and forth with that, and I did like that, and it's just like reminds me of not another teen movie where. They're going through all the people that they could put the bet on. Then there's a literal deformed, bizarre looking, almost like fantastical, magical creature that they're like, oh, not her. And then they settle on Janie because she has glasses and a ponytail. So it's just like, this movie almost kind of went there too. But just because. Are you
saying the chubby kid was a fantastic?
No, I'm saying that it's more so the fact that he wears a beanie and has blotchy skin or something. Like, is that what constitutes as, oh, this is the line? He's a mess. Because she says something like he's a mess. No,
because
they were looking at him from afar. They didn't know that he had no social media then.
No. But then immediately she went and she's like, oh, God, the only thing I found about him was Twitter. Like, he had a tweet.
Oh, that's right. And he said that one Twitter. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, that's right. You're right.
And so that was what made the decision for them, right? Because, I mean, this movie is all about social media, right? Like, it's about... That's what this movie is about.
Yeah, which also, I just want to say that this movie got Kourtney Kardashian. I thought it was Kim at first. I don't know anything about the Kardashians. It got Kourtney Kardashian and almost penned her as a villain. Cool with that.
Rightfully so, though, right?
I was shocked that she would want herself to be portrayed as that.
Do you think that she knew what she was being portrayed as?
I mean, I don't know, but
those two scenes were filmed at the same time, you know, same location. All she had to do was just read a couple of lines. She was looking at her phone constantly too, so she could also just
they're feeding into her ear.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we forgot to mention that Rachel Leigh Cook makes an appearance in this movie.
Yeah, so she's the mother.
She plays the mom.
And Matthew Lillard is the principal, and those are pretty much the only two characters that.
I was really hoping Freddie Prinze would come back.
Yeah, right? Me too.
I was hoping that he was going to be the principal. I was happy when it was Matthew Lillard because...
I also thought it was going to be the principal.
I thought it was going to be Freddie Prinze. They have very similar voices.
Yeah, I mean, I love Matthew Lillard, but I thought there would be more.
This movie reminded me how much I actually miss Matthew Lillard.
Like,
he needs to come back. Like, he needs like a good Netflix or like HBO show.
Yeah, right? Like, because it's not like he's not there, but like he needs something a little bit more fame worthy because he's just on the sidelines. I will say though, Rachel Leigh Cook was kind of, I thought was a little awkward because it was like when Kiss Me started playing and she was like, I feel like I know this song. And then she like started like dancing oddly to it. I was like, you're awkward. Maybe that was the point of it, but
I don't know if Rachel Leigh Cook has done much acting though since the last thing I remember Rachel Leigh Cook was in that commercial about the eggs. This is your brain on drugs.
Oh my gosh, I don't even remember that. She was in Josie and the Pussycats.
Oh, she was Josie?
She was Josie.
Oh, I forgot about that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If I remember correctly, she did a show called Perception where she played like an agent.
Oh,
working with this like a mentalist or neurologist, scientist.
The Mentalist type
Perception,
of TV shows.
Yeah, it was on for 3 seasons.
Damn. Okay.
With
she was actually pretty good on that.
Yeah. I mean, Mentalist type TV shows were hot, like Psych, The Mentalist.
Oh yeah.
I guess Perception. You know what I mean? Like those were of the rage. All right, let's get back to this movie. Nicole, do you think this movie was needed? I'm just gonna go right into it.
No, I did want to talk about Jordan.
Oh. Who's Jordan?
The ex-boyfriend.
Oh, the TikTok star.
The Justin Bieber wannabe. Do you remember him?
Am I supposed to remember him?
Yeah, because we covered him in something.
What?
He was in Girl Meets World.
Yes.
Who was he in Girl Meets World?
He was like the love
Lucas
interest.
Fryer. He was the love
Yes.
interest.
Really?
Yes.
Whoa, he looks like a whole different person.
Well, he's grown.
Grown, yeah.
But I remember watching it and I was like, I know this actor. And it was just so interesting too, because I love how men have changed, at least like in terms of this is what the popular guy looks like and this is how the popular guy dresses. And this is what the unpopular guy looks like and this is how the unpopular guy dresses.
Well, the unpopular guy dresses
I appreciated that. Like he was more
90s grunge.
flamboyant and like almost like David Bowie-ish. And then like the unpopular kid was 90s grunge and a beanie and just like no effort, into fashion and stuff. So that I kind of did appreciate, because I actually do think that you'll feel better if you present yourself in a better way. People who kind of dress down could be surprised by how
I have something to think about on that one, right? Have you noticed that most of our American superheroes have been cast to be British, have been cast by British men or like non-American men? Majority of them are non-American.
So there's Robert Downey Jr., there's Chris Evans.
Chris Hemsworth is Australian.
There's Doctor Strange is Benedict
British.
Cumberbatch.
Robert Pattinson, who's Batman. Christian
Spider-Man?
Bale. Tom Holland is British.
Who else is there? Black Panther is American.
Black Panther. Yeah, I think he is American. Was American. He passed away.
So that's about half. Superman is British.
Superman is British.
Wonder Woman is not American. I don't know where she's from.
She Israel.
Well, I mean, that's great, because
yeah. It
What's your point?
No, my point is though that there is kind of like, so I remember reading this article. It was granted on it might be on a problematic magazine. I found out Men's Health, because apparently Men's Health has like this toxic masculine culture around it. But it basically was about this.
Shock.
Sorry for saying this, but it's about the pacification about American men and how Hollywood, as a result, was casting like other country, like other men from other countries because the American male is now TikTokers or like, a lot more into the metrosexual look. It was just an interesting read. I don't remember when I read that article. I don't know if I even know if I could find it, but
yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, well, when you were talking about like the popularity thing, it kind of it reminded me of it, because I think it even came up in that 21 Jump Street remake where Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill, Channing Tatum was just like, "You're the popular one. I'm like the loser now."
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Things do change, and things that come, and it's nice too that the things that are becoming more popular now are not like the dumb jock. Nerds are in,
I mean, yeah, nerds
have finally got their revenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, nerds create the tech that we use, and we know they're going to be rich, so that makes sense. That checks.
Yeah, and nerds are not like how they're portrayed in Revenge of the Nerds. They're actually like normal, good-looking people
who can also be like super, super misogynistic.
That too. Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, they're flawed, just like everybody else. Anyway, so that was nice. But to answer your question as to whether or not I thought this was needed, no, absolutely not. I mean, I think majority of what we got this year were all things that I didn't need and didn't think twice about. Oh, maybe I did need this. Like, no, I don't. Nothing made me change my mind about whether or not this was needed. I guess that everyone thinks that this was a waste of time. People are calling it a heaping pile of garbage. I wouldn't say that. I would call Tom and Jerry that maybe. And this actually provided me with, something a little bit more than some of the other things that we've covered. And I do think people are being unfairly mean to this, but no, we did not need it. Do you think we needed it, Rolando?
So, I knew that question, like yesterday, I kept wrestling with that question. It's just like, did I need this? I don't know if I needed this. And I don't know if I can say no either, if that makes sense, right? Like, I'm very much caught in the middle. I'm just like, maybe. That would be my answer, because I don't think I needed the gender role reversal for sure. Obviously, like, it's just like, that could have been, You could have just made another different kind of Pygmalion movie, and it didn't have to be She's All That. But there was something about this movie that I liked, and I kind of am leaning towards like, okay, like I know I'm not the target demo for this. Like the target demo is like people who were my age when I saw She's All That, 13. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I guess for them, maybe it's okay for them to watch a movie where the end message here is just like, yo, your social media, like, yeah, it's gonna be an important part of your life. It is, sadly. Like, you and I are in creatives. We understand, like, it is a make or break for our careers. But I think Paget's that name. I think her message at the end about like maybe it's about being an authentic version of yourself, though, that's more important. I'm like, okay, that's actually not a bad message, right? It's just not. And I'm like, okay, maybe that's a good takeaway to have, and maybe also at the same time, like, just maybe also, I'm thinking of like the 13-year-olds who are watching this. I'm just like, maybe also just seeing it just like there's more to people also outside of their social media followings.
Well, okay, so that would be a criticism I'm going to throw in right at the last minute, is that the film kind of ends on this note where now she takes her social media into this new direction. It's all kind of based on her relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think Paget's found herself yet. I would tell her, don't base your success around your relationship. Don't base your life around your relationship. And also, don't get matching tattoos.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, that
in
is
a relationship.
That is the death kiss.
It kind of ends with her needing to learn that, and me being like, oh, please don't take that away, because it's also like, oh, now she's happy because she's in a fulfilling relationship that now is going to help her with her career, and those things should be separate.
I mean, I don't disagree with you there. Look, I'm not saying this was a perfect movie. And like I said, I'm like very much torn as to whether or not I needed this movie or not. I don't know yet. And that might be something that I might have a decision on by the end of the year based off of the rest of the movies that we see. Because as you mentioned, this year there's been a lot of clunkers. This one was one of those movies where when I was watching it, I came in ready to hate this movie, even though I'm the one who picked it.
Yeah, you were so gung-ho.
Yeah, because I wanted to like watch a movie to hate. And yet I came out like saying, like, oh, this wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I guess maybe the Addison Rae actress, she was one who, I think her and the sister, they won me over.
The sister was good.
You know, like, even like the little lesbian love story in the middle, the fucking drop it like F Scott party. Like, God, I want that
party. Yes.
Yeah, me too.
Oh my God, make your birthday that. Please.
Yeah, wasn't I think January and F. Scott Fitzgerald are like synonymous with each other, but I don't remember why.
Yeah, I don't know why either. Maybe
was he
New Year's
born?
Parties are really famous for doing like a Rory's 20. I don't know. He doesn't come off as a Capricorn to me. Let's see.
Maybe Zelda Fitzgerald was born in January.
Zelda.
Anyway,
he was born on September 24th, which is very soon.
Oh my gosh! This I think when we're listening to this, you might be listening. Happy birthday, F. Scott.
Yeah, that'll be the title of the episode.
Happy birthday, F. Scott.
Oh my gosh! Wow, you have to make it all the way to the end to get that one.
Yeah, people are gonna be listening, just like, why is this Happy birthday, F. Scott?
Oh my gosh, I love that. I think that's the perfect way to end this episode.
I think so
honestly.
too.
Yeah.
I think so too.
So did you watch He's All That? Do you agree that this is a heaping pile of garbage, or did you actually enjoy it? You gotta let us know. And these are the ways you can let us know. Reach out to us on Facebook, facebook.com/Remakes, Reboots, Revivals. We are active on Instagram at Remakes, Reboots, Revivals. You can find us on YouTube. Just type in our name. You can find us on Twitter at Remakes Podcast. And we do have a hotline that you could call in and share your thoughts with. What is that hotline, Rolando?
The number is 862-248-2326. That's 862-248-2326. Give us a call anytime and leave a voicemail.
Yes, you can email us also at remakesrebootsrevivals@gmail.com. And if you enjoy this podcast, please give us a rating. Let us know your thoughts and share it with anybody. It really does help us grow. So on that note, thank you so much for listening. And until next time,
Stay an original.